This is Legends and Libations.
Sipping through history.
Let the journey begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legends and Libations podcast,
Where we're sipping through history.
and thank God for it, because there's a lot of history to be sipping through.
That's true. It's been a long summer.
Such a long, hot, vicious summer.
Yes, we haven't been uploading as frequently as we would like to, but now the summer is over and we hope to get back into the groove of things.
Definitely get back on track and be recording regularly for you guys. And yeah, geez, what a hot summer.
Well, you know what it's not as hot as, Jesse?
Oh, tell me.
The Amazon rainforest in the 1500s.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, it may not be as hot as the Amazon. I know it's hot down here where we are.
Right, we think that it's
I
hot.
think it's hot, but the Amazon sounds atrocious.
Yeah, it does. And what does the Amazon have to do with this week's topic?
Yeah, so today we're going over El Dorado.
El Dorado. Wow.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piece, really. And it has me thinking, actually in the 1500s, yeah, from what I understand, there was like a mini ice age.
Oh, really? So it might not have been as hot as it is, like currently.
Who knows?
It's all relative, though, because if you grow up without air conditioning, then it might not be as bothersome as it is to us now.
Then I guess who cares, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Today for El Dorado, I felt, I went against my better judgment. I went to the bottom shelf.
Right, exactly.
And
for South America, you got to go low for the bottom shelf in South America.
Yeah, so I got to Montezuma Aztec Gold. So if any of you guys have ever tried this, you're ahead of us. And we're about to try this. We actually are going to be we have already made some margaritas with it that we haven't tried yet. But because I'm interested in just the tequila in general, I wanted to try it.
That's why the bottle is partially empty. It's because we pre-made some, but we have not tasted.
Yeah, so
it yet.
We're here to try the tequila on it. So it's because I really like gold tequilas, actually.
Okay, as opposed to the silver clear kind.
Yeah, well, one makes me feel like a conquistador, and the other makes me feel not so cool.
Well, the gold is definitely significant because El Dorado and gold. So we had to go with the gold in this one.
We had to go with gold. There was no option.
It was not the Silver City.
Yeah. If it was Silver City, then we would have chose a different.
Is that Wizard of Oz where there's the Silver City?
Yeah. Yeah,
or
call that.
It's either that or the Neverending Story. Emerald City, you're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which also was I think in Pokemon.
You're right.
Anyways, so are you willing to try this with me?
Yeah, so we get the full experience. We agreed that we would do a shot of it.
Just to see how it is.
Because, the flavors get masked when you make a mixed drink a lot of the time.
Yeah, and since this is a margarita, geez.
Oh, my goodness, Jesse.
Oh no, my hand slipped. I think I poured too much. If it's bad, you just pour margarita over it, all right?
I guess that's a good idea.
Okay. So
I'm not a shots person generally, so I'm a little bit apprehensive of doing a shot.
We can do a sip.
I mean, I'm going to do a shot. I'll try to.
Oh, God.
I might have to edit me out throwing up out of the video. You'll come back and the whole table will be redone.
New notes put in.
There'll be nothing there.
Okay. So, let's do this.
All right. So we do got to do the salt first, and then you take the lime off, and then we do
salt, take the shot, and a little bit of lime. So cheers, and welcome to another episode. All right.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
I think I got some in my beard.
Well, that burns about as much as a storage hold of gunpowder catching on fire.
Oh, that reminds me of some of our stories today.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in a little bit.
Yeah,
I like these big salt granules, though.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of the tequila? Do you like tequila?
I'm not a big tequila person in general. I do enjoy the experience of doing the shot with the lime and the salt.
Yeah.
It's a whole ordeal.
Yeah, it makes it kind of worth
an adventure.
Yeah,
which is fitting for this episode.
For those who do drink tequila and like it, on its own or shots, not actually better than I thought it was going to be. I thought grabbing from the bottom shelf it would be so good.
Well, funny story is that I was asking my wife what kind of tequila that we should get, and she was like, "Well, don't get Jose Cuervo or anything lower than that." And then Jesse called me while he was at the liquor store, and he said, "Well, I see this kind that says Montezuma Aztec Gold on it," and I said, "Is it on the same level as Jose Cuervo?" And he says, "No, it's below."
Yeah, it's like, like literally, I think it was right below it. Oh yeah. So,
but with a name like Aztec Gold, we
couldn't really go against it, honestly. Like, I feel like if something's called, I hope this ice isn't coming and making so much noise, but
no, it's fine.
Some more, you'll grab some.
Of course, I want more ice, dude. I love ice. This isn't the 1500s, so we have ice.
All right.
All right, I'll get us some ice.
So,
and
yeah, if you do like tequila, this one, surprisingly, I mean, there's a bit of burn, I guess, to it, but it is gold tequila, which tends to be a little bit better because it does actually have to sit in a barrel for some time and get that color and whatnot. So
is that where the color comes from?
Yeah, that's where the color comes from.
It's not because it has gold in it.
No, well, this one is gold flaked, right?
Gold, or it's like from the Lake Guadavita gold.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I went there to just. It said it. Well,
I think it's like a protected site now.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about
it's a protected site, so you can't just go there. All right, let's see how these margaritas turned out. I'm curious.
I'm curious too because
I
have no idea.
This is dangerous. I think I could use more tequila.
I don't know. I saw you looking at the bottle of tequila. It's like, I'd be okay if we add some more tequila to it, though. Like, I'm not opposed to that.
You want some more in your cup?
Yeah, in the cup and in the pitcher as well.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yep.
I mean, just a little bit. That's good. Yeah.
God, I probably just ruined your notes.
For some reason, the gravity is more on the side of the table. That's probably great. All right. Well, he just poured the entire thing in our pitcher, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to talk about El Dorado?
Yeah, let's actually talk about El Dorado.
Okay, so
trying to figure out our margaritas and tequila and stuff.
So what did you know about El Dorado going into this?
What did I know about it?
Or like what was your perception of El Dorado when you thought about it?
Yeah. So when I first thought of El Dorado, you remember the movie?
Mm-hmm. The DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, not Disney. I thought it was Disney, and then I'm looking at it on Disney Plus, and I'm like,
you were looking for Disney Plus. That's funny.
Yeah, it's actually DreamWorks.
It's DreamWorks, but Elton John does the soundtrack for it.
Yeah, and that soundtrack just is stuck in my head.
Yes, it's a good soundtrack.
So good. But it also, I think, perverted some of my ideas of what El Dorado was. Like, first of all, Cortez. Cortez is like the main. He's not the bad guy, but because you also have that weird like dark priest guy that's like, trying to get him, trying to prove that they're like trying to do this whole demonic god thing.
So basically, what Jesse's getting at is that the Road to El Dorado movie is about as big of a lie as this bottle. It says Aztec Gold, because the Aztecs didn't have anything to do with El Dorado.
Yeah,
at all.
Not even a little bit.
And Cortez didn't have anything to do with El Dorado either.
Yeah, no, like nothing.
This was like a total DreamWorks fabrication of revisionist history.
Yeah. And so many people take these things and like, yeah, I know a little bit about Cortez.
Oh, El Dorado. He was looking for that El Dorado place.
Yeah, and that's just not what Cortez is doing at all. And of course, there's so many other inaccuracies with the movie, and
I'm sure, but
some strange like colonial like
stereotypes and things like that. Yeah.
But like it just wasn't.
It still holds up as a good movie.
Oh my God, what a great movie.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong when I say this is like, we were peaking at creating cartoons at this.
And we kind of fell off a little bit since then. We ran out of ideas.
Well, and there's something, even with Miguel and Tulio, there's this like very cool adventure side. Like, like now
they have good chemistry.
Oh, and you think of the modern like cartoons that are coming out. It's like emotions now have emotions, and it's like Inside Out, for example. And like this one, like it's not, mind you, it's not a virtuous story, but man, is it like
it's not virtuous,
fun, adventure.
It's straightforward.
It's just so much more fun
Yeah.
Really, it's just fun.
They're not hiding anything from you during the movie. You know what the plot is, who the bad guys are, what their motivations are. How from the very first scene, it sets the tone for like the character of the main characters. And
exactly.
But you've got Kenneth Branagh and who played Gilderoy Lockhart. That's our Harry Potter tie-in. Because we have to do a Harry Potter tie-in every time that we do an episode.
Sometimes also Ireland, but I actually don't think I have an Ireland one this time.
Well,
We'll make one up.
don't worry, because I have a Helena Blavatsky tie-in later on. We always mention too. Okay, but we don't want to throw away Cortez's importance to the El Dorado quest. While he may not have looked for it himself, that doesn't mean that he didn't have significant influence over those who came after him and like kind of set the tone for the whole South American New World gold adventure that we do see in El Dorado, the movie. Okay, so Cortez, after Christopher Columbus came in 1492, he had a little bit of success like finding gold, and he was on a mission more like to discover a route to India. From Europe. No, exactly. No, he landed in Hispaniola, I think, which is modern day like Haiti and Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, because we're like in this weird time era where like Christopher Columbus to our grandparents was like really like people loved him then, and now people like hate him.
Right.
But like if there's anything we can really say about Christopher Columbus is he's a really good sailor. Like
absolutely.
there are people who tried doing this trip and never made it.
It never made it at all.
And he did pretty
multiple trips, I think.
Multiple trips, yeah. And so there are a lot of weird things that happen whenever you realize that there's a whole nother society that lives on the other side of the world. But one of the things that I do think that we don't recognize often is that he did in fact make the New World a discovered place.
Right.
Found a way to sail there.
He discovered some of those like those black areas of the map, you know, like in a video game.
Here be dragons.
Right. So you go to completely uncharted territory, and that's why he thought that he was in India a lot of the time is because like they hadn't been here before.
Hence why people like sometimes called them Indians, which
stuck for a long time, really.
Even sometimes now people still use that kind of language. And
exactly.
You're like, no, well, not quite, but. So yeah, tell me more about Cortez.
Okay, so Cortez, while he didn't search specifically for El Dorado, he dealt more with the Aztecs. Yeah. And specifically Montezuma, which is also the name of the tequila and of the triple sec that we have. It was Montezuma II was in charge of the Aztecs when Cortez landed in the New World, which I think was in 1519. And he did a really cool thing. Like for all the bad things about Cortez and for all like the genocide and wiping out of cultures and stuff like that and demonizing the indigenous people. And we'll throw all that aside for a second and realize how much of like a charismatic leader that he was. When they landed in the New World, Cortez burned all of his ships and said that we are going to succeed in this mission or we are going to die trying because there's going to be no retreat. There's no going back. So he scuttled all the vessels.
Holy smokes. Like, so he's just, they land and he's like, light those things on fire.
Right.
We're going to end.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys aren't going anywhere.
No.
Our new world, new world, new me.
And kind of with that attitude, you kind of see how the rest of the explorers kind of pan out and like how enthusiastic they are about finding El Dorado and how much that they risk everything to try to attempt it, because you have Cortez setting the standard right off the bat about burning the ships.
Yeah. He and of course, also a lot of like what he learns from the Aztecs are like what a lot of the, because admittedly, the Aztecs are not the original owners of the city that they're in.
No,
they're a lot like Vikings themselves who took over a different people's city.
I think that people was called the Olmecs.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that happens, I think sometimes, is that they were a different culture, and they were not like, there was some really dark things that also happened in that culture.
Oh, absolutely.
They were exaggerated, and they were used as like a way to say justify.
Right. This is the histories written by the victors sort of thing.
So of course there's half truths in there. Like
absolutely.
We're looking at it. Of course,
there's a couple of funny stories that happen with Cortez and the Aztecs. So he was going to try to siege their main city. I think it's like Tenochtitlan, maybe. is or Tenochtitlan, something like that.
Where like modern day Mexico City or something.
Maybe, that might be right. Where Montezuma II was the one that was in charge, and Montezuma II had the bright idea where he was going to bribe Cortez to not attack his city by giving him gold and other trinkets that were valuables. So that really didn't work because you can kind of see like the conflict of interest. He's like, all right, well, if you have gold to give me, then that means that you have more gold. So
I can take.
Right, that I'm going to come take because I have guns and I have gunpowder.
Yeah, and gunpowder was quite a powerful thing to have.
Yes.
You
or taking over indigenous peoples who had never seen gunpowder before.
exactly.
Who are fighting you with bows and arrows most of the time, or spears. So needless to say that those bribes didn't work. And he had a whole good thing of like a very tactician strategy of plotting the neighboring tribes against the Aztecs because they were all like constantly at war with each other. So he like made allies with the neighboring tribes
group and
to say, oh, the Aztecs are our enemy. I'm going to take over them. You should join me.
Yeah, be on my side.
To grow his force. Yeah.
It was a kind of smart with some of that.
Yeah, he was a very good strategic military commander.
He's good at chess.
I'm sure he definitely was too.
Yeah. So yeah, of course he is kind of the first in some ways, not the first in the sense of like, Columbus was before him, but he's the one who's setting like, hey, we're exploring and we're doing things.
Right. So many other people wanted to replicate Cortez's success in the New World that they would come to Central America and South America and try to loot the cities or like try to find this like rumored city of gold.
Yeah, right.
And the way that like the rumored city of gold sort of like grew and snowballed out of control is that the indigenous people soon learned that a great way to get rid of the Spanish would be to tell them that there was a rich city of gold somewhere to the south and that's where all the gold came from.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I was thinking about this is like gold was extremely valuable to the Europeans.
Right, exactly.
And currency for a whole long time, like far before Rome. So, but for the indigenous people groups, like
it didn't have the same significance.
That it was decorative.
Right, exactly.
It was primarily decorative, and they didn't use it in their trade and
as
barter.
A currency. No, they had like a barter society with like goods and services and stuff like that.
And so they're like handing us their like tinfoil, their sparkly tinfoil, and they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, we're like, we love that. Yeah,
yeah. But they don't care about it as much. And in this course, the Americas are much more. They haven't been mined away,
right?
But so there's a lot of natural resources.
Natural resources, absolutely, because the indigenous peoples you'll see like around the world definitely get along with nature more than they exploit nature. I guess they live in like a symbiotic relationship with it, as opposed to we're gonna slash and burn and get all this timber and strip mine and frack and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then you also
leave it to the white people to do the fracking.
And then what you also have is that's interesting is that the indigenous people really did learn that, oh man, the Spanish want gold.
Right, exactly.
How do you get them away from you? How do you get them? Oh, there's gold just
over that ridge. Yep, just in that valley.
It's over there.
Yep, over those hills, and you'll find a city of gold.
So they were able to use that greed
and being gullible.
Yeah. So let's talk about the legend of. If you have any more on Cortez.
I think I'm done with Cortez.
Let's talk about El Dorado itself.
Okay, so where did El Dorado come from?
So I think with like there is some legend.
There's more of a past that you wouldn't expect from El Dorado because El Dorado was a real thing. Yeah, but it kind of morphed and expanded.
It changed. The original is a very small legend. It's called the El Hombre Dorado, or the
Golden Man.
Right? Mm-hmm. The Golden Man. So there was the Muisca.
The Muisca people.
The Muisca tribe. They when they elected a new leader, what would happen is that leader would. By the way, I found out that their leadership isn't son to father or father to son. It was like nephew from the mother's side.
Mm-hmm. And the Muisca people, I wanted to add this, is like when you think about ancient Central America, South America, you think about the Aztecs and you think about the Incas, but the Muisca people were actually the third largest of the civilizations.
Yeah.
They were more of like a loose confederacy though, and not like a centralized empire.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of people and they had a lot of culture.
Yeah,
But they didn't have the strength of like the Empire of Rome and stuff like that.
They're not an empire, but they are.
But they had this.
Yeah, federation for sure. And within that, their king, whenever the king would be
Anointed
king, what he would do is they would cover him with like some like mud or something, and then
put gold dust on him.
Dust all over.
I saw that.
And so he would then be canoed out to the middle of the lake
On this elaborate raft.
Yeah, on a very beautiful handmade elaborate raft that was just.
It had like these torches or like these lights on them that they would set on fire.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think they had burned like incense.
Oh yeah, I did read some sense and that was on Lake
Guadavita.
Yeah, Guadavita, right? Guadavita. So they would go out there on Guadavita with that, and he would in that like golden state jump into the water.
I bet that was cool.
The moon goddess. Well, and I've also read to the sea gods, but it seems like the moon goddess was a little bit more
Whatever.
on point.
Some goddess.
I'm not positive we would know anyway, but
This whole thing is based on a story that gets mistranslated. So
sometimes.
yeah.
So and while he did that, the people would throw gold in.
Right.
So I mean, it must have been a little valuable to make it an offering or a sacrifice. It's beautiful. And so the people that reminds me of the part in the cartoon where they're like,
To Shabalba?
Shabalba?
Yes.
To Shabalba.
And they start throwing all the gold into like that whirlpool.
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, wow, no, let's.
No, that's not what we want.
No, stop. Cut it out.
Actually, we're going to take that home with us.
Yeah.
To the heavenly worlds.
Yeah.
So that's what that whole thing kind of.
So the El Hombre Dorado eventually morphed into El Dorado.
Because if they're willing to just toss, and this is the Spanish mindset, they're willing to just toss like.
Yeah, if it was like so insignificant to them that they could just part with it by tossing it into the lake, that they must have an abundance of it.
Yeah, such abundance.
Right, exactly.
So this begins this kind of city of gold, or the gold as it translates.
Yeah, exactly. And the Muisca people, where this legend is brought to the Spanish-speaking world, is from this conquistador named Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada. And he's the one who conquered the Muisca people and was able to learn about this ritual with the raft and with the lake. And the king, they actually call the new king, the incoming king, is called the Zippa.
Yeah, I read about the Zippa, yeah.
And they think that this lake, or de Quesada believed that this lake was a real lake, and it was called Lake Guadavita. So when he takes over the Muisca people, he has this really bright idea, because he knows that they've been throwing gold into the lake for generations upon generations. So he says, we're going to drain the lake and get all the gold out of the lake.
Yeah.
Did you read about this?
I did read a little bit about it.
Okay. Do you know how he decides the best way to drain the lake is?
Tell me.
They're going to use buckets. They're going to make an assembly line
of buckets,
and they're going to enslave some of the indigenous people, and they're going to use a bucket, like when your ship is taking on water and you're throwing the buckets into the water, into the ocean.
Where did they take those buckets?
That is a great question.
Like, without it just going back
back into the water. Okay, if you look at pictures of Lake Guadavita, it's in like a basin, where there's mountains surrounding it. And so if they just like took it over the ridge of the mountains, they would be able to empty it somewhere else.
Okay.
So they're bucketing out the water, and they use so many buckets and so many slaves that they actually managed to lower the level of the lake by 3 meters, which is about 10 feet.
Holy crap!
So they managed to get enough water out that they lower it significantly, like more than the height of this room.
Yeah.
And they find some gold things. They find golden like trinkets and cups and whatnot that they have.
A couple of things.
Right. They get just enough to make them want to do it some more. And
as it goes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the conquistadors are really looking into.
They never lose this sense of greed. It's like ingrained in people who want to be conquistadors, is that they must have this sense of greed, this overpowering urge to always find more gold, because the gold was never enough for them. In that later on, you'll find out that the bucket idea wasn't working great. So they decided to carve a canal in the mountain that they were just going to like shovel and chop a bunch of the mountain away so that the lake would flow out of it. And that worked a little bit. They managed to like release some of the water, and they found a little bit more gold like along the coastline, because you know how it's going to like it's going to drain in like a bowl shape like that. So they found more gold around the coast, the new area that has been exposed. So they're like, okay, well, we got to come up with a better idea than this. And this lasts all the way until like the 1890s. Is sort of like when these construction projects were going on.
People are still trying to do it up
until the 1890s. In the 1890s, the idea that they had was we're going to dig a tunnel underneath the lake, and we're going to just let out all the water. Like this is going to be our bright idea to get the gold trinkets. We're going to let out the water from the lake. So they dig a tunnel under the mountains that goes under the lake, and they carve themselves up to where the water is, and they release the water out the tunnel, and they managed to like drain most of the lake, but the mud is like meters thick that's left over from before. And then when it hardens after it's been exposed to the air for a while, it's like concrete, and they like can't get into it at all.
Oh jeez. I can't believe that this project was over hundreds of years.
Yes, exactly.
It's like
and then eventually, this is in modern day Colombia.
The
government eventually stepped in and was like, okay, well, this is going to be a protected site, and we're not going to like carve up the land in the lake and dig tunnels and destroy this lake anymore in the mountainside. So y'all got to cut it out.
Years up.
Right, exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Which might be in like an effort of preservation, but also might be because they want to do it themselves, you know. We want to keep this thing close to home.
Is it virtuous, or are they just doing it for themselves? Yeah, absolutely.
You absolutely don't know.
And who was this guy again?
This is De Quesada.
De Quesada. Okay.
He was probably one of the most obsessed with El Dorado, because during his expedition where they took over the Muisca people for the first time, he took 800 men with him.
Wow, that's actually quite a, yeah. That's
Do you want to know how many of those men survived?
Oh, with I'm gonna guess like a third of them, maybe.
That's 166.
166.
Yes, of the 800.
That's less than a fourth.
Yeah. It's not great.
Which becomes kind of a theme for El Dorado. El Dorado is like the worst gamble. I feel like death follows it.
Oh, absolutely. We will see through the course of this episode that
like.
It's like a fool's errand, pretty much.
Fool's errand, yeah, and people died trying to get it there,
and it's based on like an exaggerated rumor.
Yeah. Okay, so after this,
let me finish with Quesada real quick, because since he was one of the most obsessed, losing like 500, 600 men in that first expedition,
which is so many,
was not enough for him. So he managed to survive, and they faced troubles like starvation. The terrain was treacherous. They had conflicts with indigenous peoples other than the Muiscas. That he said that was not enough for him. So he mounted a second expedition where he took 400 people with him, and it was more disastrous than the first.
How are they traveling at this time? Because this is still before the discovery of the Amazon River. Like, I
feel like they're like going on foot and horseback and whatever they could bring from Spain with them. So not a lot. And needless to say, since it was more deadly than the first expedition, that they didn't find El Dorado, they lost a lot of people. I don't have an exact number.
Find it?
No, they didn't find it.
Oh no,
I don't have an exact number for how many people that were dead in this one, but I do know that since he didn't find it, that he actually lived to be pretty old for considering the time period, because when he was 60 years old, he decided to do a third expedition to El Dorado.
Could you imagine being 60? Being like, yeah,
in the 1500s, that's the thing. It's like people are dying around you at like in their 30s most of the time.
So that is kind of like something that happens. Is sometimes we talk about this kind of general
mortality rate.
Mm-hmm. Of course, mortality rates brought way down by
infants.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
You are right.
So, but usually people could live, if they didn't die from war or from looking for El Dorado, they could live a long time sometimes.
That is true.
You know, we got your 60 to 80 kind of round.
But he tried again when he was 60, and most of his men died again.
How many people, I wonder?
I'm not sure how many
for El Dorado.
we'll give an estimate when we get to the end of this, and I would like to put a number on it if we could use our best guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know how big his party was at the end. Like, do you think that he was like in the town square, like, hey, I need to get some guys for an El Dorado mission. Who wants to go with me? And they're like, dude, 1,000 people have died going with you. I'm not going with you. Like, what are you talking about?
Have a bad resume. Sir.
Yes, exactly.
Bad resume.
Yeah. So Quesada, we're going to throw him. I made pictures of all the things for us. I might put him on the screen.
We'll put him up on the screen whenever.
But that's Quesada right there, dude. He looks kind of regal.
He does. Like, admittedly, if I did see him, I would be like, I kind of trust you.
Yeah, he kind of looks like an older Ryan Gosling, you know.
Yeah, he does with like one of those Shakespeare neck things.
Yeah, exactly. But he was obsessed with El Dorado and he died. So we're done with him.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yep.
What happens next though is because he didn't find it. Like, people aren't going to be like, "Ooh, this is a great idea." Mm-hmm. I feel like it could have cooled down there, but it didn't because of the very legendary Juan Martin.
Oh, tell me about Juan Martin.
Which he has a few names that like history remembers him by.
One is very obscure from his original name. They just added "ez" to the end of it and called him Juan Martinez.
Yeah. I don't know how that happens, but we're gonna call him Juan Martin for the sake of
John Martin.
Yeah, John Martin. If we're going to go that English, but he's Spanish. So one of the things like that happens with him is he's traveling with General Silva.
Okay.
General Silva is in fact looking for it's not so much El Dorado yet, but they know that they're looking for gold.
Right, because this is the unexplored areas on the map. They're still scouting it out and like...
And they know there's gold out there. I mean,
right.
Incas were just destroyed.
They find enough gold to fuel the fire for their greed a lot of the time.
And so there's not quite the El Dorado, but there's this idea of the idea of the golden man. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is they're traveling together, and it's been happening for since I want to say it was 1529, and it had been there's been quite a few dozen people, dozen groups, sorry, not dozen people, dozen groups sent on exhibitions. Yeah,
expeditions.
There it is. So they're out, and you know what? General Silva is like, I need to get out of here. This place is terrible. He's in the jungle. We're thinking, like, right now, if you watch a video of people trying to travel through the jungle in the Amazon.
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. So usually the research that I do for this podcast is I'll like look it up on YouTube and watch every video that I can find. And one of them was of this modern day Discovery Channel expedition to find a city that they had seen on like a satellite imagery that they had found, where they were doing some of that like ground penetrating radar sort of thing. And they thought that there might be some ruins in this part of the dense jungle of the Amazon. And they were going off the beaten path. I would think that it was maybe like a foot trail sort of thing, but it was so dense that they were having to like hack down stuff with a machete.
Have to have that.
And like people were falling off the mountainside and they were having to rescue them. Like it was basically perilous attempt to even like move at a very slow pace. And they managed to find some rocks that looked like they might have been a wall from a civilization that had existed centuries ago. And that was enough for them to be like, hey, this is a success. Look at us. We found this wall here.
We went through the jungle. We're good now.
Right. But that kind of gives you hope, though, that you would think that, oh, man, I can look on the Google like satellite data and say, look, this might be a city here. Let's do an expedition there. Like that might give you a reason to go look for El Dorado right there.
Yeah, it would. But going through the jungle. I mean, so I lived in Belize for a little while, and we'd have the whole machete thing through.
Really?
That was way lighter than what like you see in the Amazon. And it like just the idea of traveling that way. Like, so here they are, like General Silva and his men are like worried about crocodiles, worried about jaguars, worried about the heat, disease, and what they called savages, right? Which was the indigenous.
That reminds me of the Pocahontas song.
I don't
Savages.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, they're so there's this kind of struggle, like where he's like, I would rather get out of here. Well, something perfect happens. All the gunpowder blows up.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Or unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, and somebody was supposed to be watching it. So he.
This is old Juan Martin over here. John Martin supposed to be looking after the gunpowder. You let it set on fire.
And he's like, oh.
You're supposed to be looking at it. Like, what did it do? I didn't think it was going to be 100 degrees outside. Like, I just was putting out my cigarette and it blew up.
It explodes. And so he used this a little bit as a scapegoat to be like, hey, now we can leave because we don't have any gunpowder. We can't keep going. But he has to punish Juan Martin.
Right. And Juan Martin was pretty popular with the crew, I thought. Yeah, like he liked him. Yeah.
People loved him. He was cool. Like, he's that guy like that you invite to parties and you're like, thank God they're coming. I know it's not going to be a bad party.
Oh, yeah. Here's Juan Martin. He's going to do some shenanigans. We'll get him to do a keg stand.
Well, and he's totally a shenanigan kind of guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he definitely is. So instead of beheading him or shooting him instantly, what do they do to him?
They're like, here's a canoe with no supplies. Boop. They just push him out. They just push him out into the riverways. Well, and when you're thinking about traveling through the jungle, you really can't. Definitely
Piranhas. Dude, I watched that animal documentary because me and my son like to watch animal things, and I was trying to like get some inspiration for the podcast. So I watched one about animals in the rainforest specifically.
Oh, God.
And they had anacondas in the rainforest that could survive underwater for like 20 minutes at a time.
Oh, jeez.
So they just like slither under the ocean, or not under the ocean, I'm sorry.
Under the river.
Under the river, exactly, in the super murky water, and they sneak up on like, there was one where it was eating a crocodile. Like the snake was eating a crocodile.
And you're just like, crocodile's real dangerous. And then there.
Yes, the anaconda is coming out of nowhere. Yeah.
Movie Anaconda.
I never saw that before.
Yeah, it was like way in the 90s. I think it was 90s. It wasn't good.
But
it was a thing.
I always fall for those like Snapchat news things a lot of the time that will show you a picture of a snake, and the snake is obviously like thicker than a car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to click on that. And I'm like, okay, where's the picture of, or where's the story of this snake that's thicker than a car? And it's not in there at all. No, it's never there. And I'm so mad about it. But yeah, so the snakes don't grow that big, but they do grow to be like fairly large.
And well, I mean, and even think about like, you got these snakes, you got poisonous flowers and frogs, you got crocodiles, you got piranhas,
mosquitoes and ticks and stuff like that were some of the biggest things that I heard about, is that you would get eaten by the insects.
Yeah, which is crazy. And so here he is floating down river. And
what happens?
Dried out by the sun, starving to death. A weak, delirious. He's not doing great. And then a turn of fortune happens. A turn of fortune, really, like where a group of indigenous people, they see him and snatch him up, but he's like totally delirious, and what's happening. He's like, "Is this real? Is this fake?"
It's like one of those scenes in the movies where the drums are going and it's like black blotchy and stuff like that. And you're like, he's passing in and out of consciousness, and they're taking him back to their city.
And exactly, and they're speaking this unknown language. This is a cool movie moment, honestly. I think like with this, you kind of catch this image of like, wow, this is weird. Like, exactly. I feel like those movies catch it. Like, I can't even think of a movie.
Have you seen Lost? The show Lost before?
A long time ago. I used to work at Blockbuster.
Oh, wow.
And I rented it while I worked there because
I recommend Lost. It's one of the best shows ever made, if not the best. But you have a good recap episode in the second season where the characters are getting caught by what they think are the others on the island, the indigenous people that live there. And it has a whole like tribal drum thing where they're being taken and they're being like strapped up to the boards and tied up with ropes. And like, it's like, that's what I imagine.
Yeah, that's really, but like, we also have to remember this group of people, like these, I want to say it's pronounced Guineans.
Is this the Guyana?
Guyana, yeah.
Yeah, people from Guyana, yeah. I guess so.
So what they're, most of these guys haven't seen a Spaniard before.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
White guy, and then, and so he's kind of an unusual one. So what they do is they're
like, what happened to this guy? Let's take him. Yeah, exactly.
What's up with this guy on this weird boat? Let's go and take him. They blindfold him, and 14 or 15 days they hike.
That's crazy.
And of course, he's wearing waterlogged shoes. His pants are probably all wet also. He's getting bit up by mosquitoes. He has sores on his feet.
Are they carrying him or are they making him walk?
Making him walk.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay.
And he's blindfolded, so he can't even know if he needs to duck whenever a branch. So he's probably hitting branch.
I didn't even think about that.
This is miserable. And a lot of the grass in the Amazon even so sharp it'll just cut you as you walk by it. So here he is just going through the rags of like of course he has these mindset of Cortez. Like he's thinking, oh, they're gonna take me to the top of a temple. They're gonna rip my heart out down
and chop my head off.
Because this is the things going through his head. He's like, holy what am I supposed to do?
Why would they even spend 15 days doing this sort of thing?
What are you doing with them?
I don't know.
Oh, well,
I mean, like, you guys could take the blindfold off. Like, I don't know where I was, so I definitely don't know where I'm going,
exactly.
Sort of thing.
But they really don't want him to know where he's going, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, we're gonna hold you. And know where you go. But of course, again, this is another cool movie moment where you're being blindfolded. It reminds me of the end of Breaking Bad when they're trying to start life. Be blindfolded to find out where they're going.
Breaking Bad had a good ending, if I remember correctly.
Such a good one. Yeah. If you guys haven't watched Breaking Bad, it's amazing. You guys should watch it.
Top tier television right there.
Oh yeah. There was something good happening in the early 2000s with music and movies.
Most definitely. That was in the golden age. That was around the time Lost was too, is when Breaking Bad was going on.
That was the real El Dorado.
Yeah.
The real El Dorado was that era.
The real El Dorado was the friends we made along the way.
So after 15 days, what he finds out is they're actually taking him to the city Manoa. Probably pronouncing that.
No, that sounds right. It's just confusing because it sounds like the Minoans that would be in the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
right.
No, yeah.
I don't know.
Don't be confused with those guys. They're not in the Mediterranean. And the emperor there, or they actually call him the Inca. They take him to the palace. They don't take him. He's like as they're getting there, they unblindfold him. And he's like, oh shoot, this is it. They're gonna kill me. And before he's taken to the emperor, he's like looking around.
He's like, oh, my eyes.
Yeah. I haven't
seen anything at all.
And what does he see? He sees strong, stout houses, like tens of hundreds of them.
Really?
Oh, tens and thousands. And he also sees they're at a big lake, and the people are scantily dressed. They don't have any real clothes really, but they are painted and covered with gold.
Right.
Adorned with gold earrings, nose rings, necklaces.
They're like a status symbol or a fashion statement.
Yeah. It's super cool. And he's like, wow, gold.
Oh,
People in gold, I guess.
right. Exactly.
And so that's what and to his surprise, he's not taken to the temple or to the top of a pyramid to be sacrificed, but he's taken to the emperor, who invites him in. And the emperor knows about these Christians.
Right.
And he's actually very hospitable, apparently.
This is a little bit of like the truth to the El Dorado, the movie, the DreamWorks movie, I feel like, is that they have some sort of amazement by this person who is an outsider.
Yeah, I don't think they think he's a god like that.
Right, exactly. But they don't want to murder him immediately.
Yeah, they're not like, let's kill this guy. There was quite a few tribes that were quite.
Right, exactly. You have a lot of accounts of these tribes of these conquistadors that were warring against them because they thought that they were cannibals or they were outsiders and they had poisonous arrows and they were like in constant conflict all the time.
But yeah, not this group.
Yeah.
Not this group. They're actually quite okay. And he apparently spends quite a bit of time with them.
Several months, right?
Like 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, he spends with them. And he is like,
how is he treated while he's there?
It's almost like a resort. Like the way he's treated is so very good. He at Beck in Hand has people bringing him stuff.
That's awesome.
Which is also which is pretty. That'd be nice. That I feel is like an all inclusive resort, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
he's like, well, we should capitalize on this. I might build a timeshare place.
Yeah. and then we have modern day Central and South America.
Exactly.
But what also happens is that he says that he sees. Everything's made of gold. Their pots and pans, their kitchen. He says there's gold on their trees and on their animals.
Wow.
He says they have statues of silver and gold that are life size. that gold was so abundant that like everything had it. The roads, literally the streets were made of gold.
One of the interesting things that I read about how this like gold was so prevalent in this time in South America was that they had a secret way of goldsmithing, like gold working, where they would make molds out of wax. And then they would use the wax as the mold to pour like the molten gold into. And then after the gold like objects were constructed, then they would set fire to it again afterwards and melt the wax away.
Wow.
So afterwards you were just left with these elaborate gold constructed objects that looked like they were just like made. Chiseled down. Exactly. Because gold is like one of those materials where you can like get it down to an absolute fine layer that isn't normal at all. It's like one of the special gold properties. So you could like layer things with gold that you couldn't do with other metals.
And gold really is kind of pretty unique, and really is more valuable now in the technological age.
Right, exactly.
Boards and stuff more than it was then. But this ritual, if you remember the Golden Man ritual,
right?
He said this didn't happen just when a new emperor came, or even once a year. They had so much gold that this happened daily.
Wow.
They threw gold into it, and he covered himself. But a way that explains this daily ritual is that they would cover him with a white balm from some of the local plants and trees. And then the attendants would blow fine powdered gold dust on him through hollow canes, like sugar cane.
Wow.
And so that was how the gold was put onto him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not mud and like...
This was an everyday sort of thing.
Every day he would do this, and they would throw gold in there.
That's interesting.
And so this becomes like really, really like a different view of it. Like this is insane. Of course, he's not done. So after 7 months, he's like...
Wait, you said that this happened in a lake too, though?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I came across when I was researching this is that there was this lake that kept being referenced called Lake Prima.
Yeah,
Primera. And it ended up being not a real lake, I guess. Like they debunked it as being real, even though it was copied onto a bunch of maps in these times. And that El Dorado, or this Manoa place, was marked as being on the coast of this lake.
Yep.
So do we think that this Lake Prima was different than the Lake Guatavita that Casada was trying to drain earlier, and that these people, like the Muisca people who were doing that tradition, were possibly copying what was being done by the people who Juan Martin was captured by?
I think that's the idea, is that everyone else was learning from this people.
Right, because they were like the high society, and it kind of trickled down.
They trickled down to everyone else, but this is the highest of society.
Right.
And unlike the other people who just had a lot of gold, this is made of gold.
Right.
And so in that 7 months, he also learns the language.
Really?
So he says.
Allegedly.
I
wonder what their language was like.
Me too. It's such a mystery now. One of the things, so he, after 7 months of being there and loving it, and I don't know why, he was like, he's recording all this for his countrymen. He's like, they need to know all this.
He has to decide that he wants to leave at some point.
Well, yeah,
right?
and it is that he is actually blessed to leave. Like,
he's given the choice, right?
He's given a choice, and the king says, yes, you can leave, and gives him as much gold as he can take with him.
Wow. I mean, how much do I get? Some like horses or okay.
Yeah, because
one canoe.
It's always weird to think that America didn't have horses before the Spanish got here. Isn't that weird? Because like we think of the wild Mustangs and we think of the Native American riding the horse, and like actually horses are very European. In fact, they're not even European; they're very Middle Eastern, and they came over to them. So
I think of horses, and I think of Genghis Khan's people, and how they use the horses.
But now there's literally wild horses here in America.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, we've literally changed the face.
I heard or I read that they would get the interpretation from these peoples who would see a rider on a horse and think that they were like one entity from a distance. If they were like coming to slaughter your city, if they've never seen a horse before, that they would think that this was like a being with a horse body and the torso of a man. And
if you've never seen
he has guns that are blasting you and killing your people.
And both him and the horse are wearing the same armor.
Right, exactly.
Both wearing this kind of silver armor. And you're like, yeah, if you've never seen that before, that is freaky.
Yeah, exactly. That would blow your mind.
Yeah. So
I'm like, I'm just going to put my bow down. I'm going to retreat into my hollow earth now because we have the caves to that.
Exactly. So Martin is given that permission, and he's kind of thinking, I'm going to rub this in General Silva's face. Get all this hot gold I got.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just loving this. Well, on his way, he gets to the shore of the river, and they're like, oh, just a few days down is your civilization.
Okay.
You'll be fine. You'll get there.
I don't know how the story ends, actually.
Yeah, so what happens is that, as he's going downriver, another warring tribe ambushes him.
Oh, really?
My goodness, I don't think I could pronounce this one if I tried. Aranoque Pony? I have no idea. Another tribe.
Okay.
So another tribe then steal his treasure, except for a couple beads he was hiding in gourds. Why?
In gourds.
Yeah, I don't know why he was.
That's a euphemism.
Yeah, right. Then he's in captivity for several years with them.
What?
Several years, 7 years. They capture him, and he earns their trust after that amount of time.
Sure, he does.
To escape.
Okay.
In his escape,
So he Shawshank Redemptions himself out of this situation.
And so after all these years, we find he comes back to civilization, and he has this recorded history.
Right. Okay. So it's been 7 years or more since the El Dorado part.
Nearly 8.
That he's
Nearly
been
8. Yeah.
He's been in this lesser advanced society that has kept him as a prisoner.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where we get this story of El Dorado. There's a place.
Right.
There's a place where the streets are made of gold.
Because it turned from a man, El Hombre Dorado, into an entire city, civilization where there's a capital and there are territories.
Is literally on the trees.
Exactly.
And that's a ridiculous shift.
It's like the game of telephone, I think we mentioned this on another episode where things get blown out of proportion, and we will continue to mention this because it is Legends and Libations.
Yeah. So this is all about this legend.
But the conquistadors had that certain thing that just made them want to try more. It was like when you read a rumor on the internet or whatever, or a conspiracy theory, and you're like, okay, well, a rational person might not believe this, but I'm going to take it in the most positive and affirming perspective that I possibly can and say, I'm going to dedicate my life to proving this true. And that's what we see
with the conquistadors.
With a lot of them. Yes, exactly. It is an unfathomable amount of people who throw their entire lives away to kill themselves looking for the city of gold. And let's go through them. If you want to, Jesse.
Yeah, I think we have to go through some of these, and maybe we'll put this in perspective at the end, honestly. But one of the things, a whole new world. Europe was the world. They thought
that's the old world.
All of them.
Yeah.
Then they find a whole new world.
Right. And so I guess it does kind of have that shiny newness to it. We don't know everything that's going on here. There might be cities of gold.
Think about how in modern day how obsessed people are with traveling.
Right.
Oh, I went to Mexico the other day and had a good weekend there. I went on a cruise. Even places in the old world, like Scotland and stuff, people love traveling.
Absolutely.
People love looking at those things. And now there's literally touristy places that we're up in the Highlands of Scotland that no one cares about. I guess what I mean by that is I'm thinking of these places called the fairy pools in Scotland that only the few people who live there would ever know about.
Right.
And now it's a
tourist
Instagram tourist trap. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people that visit each day. And you're like, we like that. I think to pretend that we're not.
So you're saying the allure of El Dorado turned into this status symbol tourist trap?
Yeah, it's an adventure.
For the ones who could afford to do it.
The ones who could afford it. And also it is an adventure and an opportunity.
It is, absolutely. If you look at the numbers that were on these expeditions, that it totally could have been that sort of gratifying adventure that we are going on to for the promise of finding the city of gold.
Yeah, exactly. So who are some of these people?
Okay, so you may have heard of this guy who conquered the Inca Empire. And the Inca Empire you see is on the western coast of South America. It's kind of where modern day Chile is now. And his name was Francisco Pizarro.
Yeah. Well, he leaves a lineage of people.
Oh, most definitely. So if your brother is the guy who conquered the Inca Empire, then you're going to want to make a name for yourself too, because you got to prove to mom and dad that you're not some sort of scrub. And
Because Scrub gets no love, right?
right, exactly. And as a consolation prize, like your brother made you the governor of Quito in Ecuador.
Yeah,
So
but that's not
good enough. No, it's not.
enough for Gonzalo.
Gonzalo Pizarro.
He's who is this brother? He's thinking like, I want more.
I've heard of this place that's
I've
over the
heard of-
Andes Mountains to the east.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I need and he's thinking back on like
The Moisca people
yeah.
with Juan Martin and what was his name? Quesada before with the Moisca people in the Lake Guadavita. That there is a place that might be just made of gold and make me the most loved son of my parents. Yeah, exactly. The most loved son of Spain.
Yeah, are we changing the script here where this is he's actually just trying to find the love of his parents and his parents don't really appreciate.
I mean, who knows? We're romanticizing the past here, but Gonzalo Pizarro, in his futile attempt that we will learn in the future, decides to mount an enormous expedition in 1541.
Like we're thinking huge, really. Like he's thinking 340 Spaniards and 4,000 indigenous people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like
Each Spanish person then is going to have like 5 or 6 indigenous people to them.
I don't even know why there's like
Because they carried the stuff, they carried the pack animals, like I don't know, were the guides.
Yeah, and when they ask about where this place might be, what do they get? Oh, you probably need to go further south.
Yeah,
It's not in
exactly.
the Andes Mountains.
No, definitely not.
You can't hang.
It's going to be in a valley, and it's going to be near water.
It's gonna be near water. Well, and this is like this advice that they get that they have to go towards down south towards the water shifts everything. Because like first of all, thank God I don't have to be in the mountains, right? Like mountains are dangerous. But what they don't know is that this is them going into the Amazon jungle.
No, they did not know how dangerous the Amazon jungle was going to be.
Oh, this is the first Europeans ever to go into the Amazon jungle, and this encountering is weird. And so we have 4,000 indigenous, 340 Spaniards, all traveling together through the jungle, through that jungle that we described earlier. With the snakes and
Humidity, the
scorpions,
heat.
humidity.
Yes, absolutely. So they encounter a lot of troubles, as we have mentioned along the way. And what kind of gets me is that they're met with starvation, Jesse. Like, I do not understand this at all. How are they in the most bountiful jungle on the face of the planet with lots of animals who live there, and they end up starving themselves to death a lot of time? They were eating their dogs. They were eating their horses. They were eating the leather from their scabbards and their belts a lot of the time.
Which is crazy because you're in the most abundant.
Right,
natural
exactly.
resources.
Do you not know that there's like trees and stuff like that? There's might be fish in the rivers that you're trekking along.
Yeah, and well, of course, they're not quite trekking at the rivers yet, right? Like, so they're traveling for about 11 months, and they go only 200 miles.
That is
You
crazy.
and I could walk 200 miles in 15 days.
That
We
surprises
probably
me.
could do it in 10 days.
I've never done that, but I believe you.
So I a handful of years ago did across northern Spain for the for
One of these pilgrimages that you did.
yeah and in that, like, walking 200 miles isn't like, it's definitely very
Nothing to sneeze at.
yeah, but you can do it in less than a month. So yeah, for 11 months they're traveling, and they only get 200 miles to the Coca River,
Okay.
and by that point they've lost 3,000 natives.
That's in my notes as well.
And 140 Spaniards.
Yeah, they're not doing so hot.
They're sick, nearly dead, starved. They're even eating their horses, like
They're
you
being
said.
eaten by the bugs. The gnats suck blood in this part of the world. Apparently, they're vampire gnats.
Yeah, things suck here. It's the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
Who volunteered for this
Yeah, right?
and why? Oh wait,
This is
there's a
no
city that
longer-
might be made of gold.
They're really no longer on a quest for gold, but on a quest for survival.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know when you're playing a game and you put it on survival mode, they just boost it up. They put it on survival mode. One of the people who do go with Gonzalo
Pizarro.
is his cousin and friend Francesco Oriana.
Okay.
Francisco Oriana, not Francesco. Francesco's, I think.
What happens to Francisco?
Well, what they decide is like, hey, we need food.
Okay.
They build for some reason because they don't know how to fish.
Because they can't, yeah.
Why don't these guys know how to use fish?
Or do anything for themselves. Do they only eat the food that came with them? Is that it?
Like they're literally on a raft. Go hunt a panther, holy crap. Like,
Right.
Go get some food. Like
There is food around you.
everywhere.
Yes.
I can't. Wait,
No, it boggles my
are
mind.
they just scared?
I will talk about this more later, but yes, I is it the unfamiliarity of it that keeps them from doing it?
Yeah, I've been racking my brain about that because I'm like, dude,
Me too. I'm like,
literally
look,
are in one
like
of the most-
you're not in the desert and you're not in the like the Arctic or like those like, completely barren places at all.
go try eating leaves if you need to.
Right, exactly. The cows can do it. You can do it.
Yeah,
the
should
the
do
freaking what is it, sloths?
Well, anyways, so Oriana, his cousin, Francisco Oriana,
Oriana.
they decide they're going to build a boat because
He seems to be the braver of the two.
They can build a boat, but they can't eat for some reason.
Absolutely.
So they build a boat, and they on December 26th, 1541, Oriana,
They split up.
Yeah, they split up, and he takes 50 men down the river to find food.
Yeah.
for the
Says, "Hey guys, peace out. We're gonna take the bravest of us, and we're gonna go ahead.
food. Yeah,
We'll come back. We'll bring the food back that we find.
we're gonna turn around. Don't worry.
Don't worry, dude. We're gonna pop down to the 7-Eleven and we're gonna get some of those
Come back, yeah.
roller hot dogs, and we'll bring you a few."
Some hot dogs and some cigarettes. Don't worry, guys.
Exactly.
But of course, the river is going quite fast, and
It was more than they bargained for.
Yeah,
I think getting in that river.
and Oriana is like, you know what? Actually, it's kind of hard to get back.
We can't go
did find
upstream.
food. Yeah, we
No,
found
no,
food,
absolutely,
but
we can't go
going
upstream.
is, like,
No, going.
really hard because it takes them 14 days to find food. Again, I don't know why it takes them 14 days to find food, but they're 14 days downriver, and they're like, going back is going to be very hard because we've just been following the current, and now going back up current,
Because you'd have to paddle.
yeah, it's going to be like 30 days or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, or you could walk along the shore and like kind of drag your raft, I guess. Maybe.
Nevertheless, what happens is
I think they said, "Oh, I'm gonna peace out of this situation, and I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm not going back up this river. These people are stupid."
this is the worst deal ever.
Yeah, exactly. So they continue on their way, and they become the first Europeans to ever traverse the Amazon River.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And they really do. And Pizarro kind of realizes by January, he's like, yeah, they're not coming back. We're doing this.
We're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for our guy Oriana to come back with the beef jerky that he promised us.
Yeah. So like, we'll take a moment to go where Pizarro goes. Pizarro, he's like, yeah, they're not coming back. We got to trek back. So he treks back.
They go in reverse.
Yeah. By the time they get back home, they're shoeless and rags, poor and hungry. They have nothing. And he vows that he's going to kill his cousin.
Really?
Oh, he vows. He's like,
Does he ever meet his cousin again?
no, he gets actually executed. He gets
That's
executed for, and let me see if I even can remember why he got executed. It was something really stupid.
Well, overall for their expedition, I have noted that there were how many Spaniards were on their quest? 300 and something.
140?
Okay, there were 80 that lived.
Mm-hmm.
There were 4,000 indigenous people, and almost none of them survived.
Which is interesting that the indigenous people groups.
I have nearly zero written down.
Yeah. How did none of them survive?
That's a great question.
Is it just because so Pizarro was known for being ruthless, like more ruthless than any other.
Because he had a chip on his shoulder, like he was
My
like,
brother killed.
yeah, exactly. I want my mommy and daddy to love me more.
Yeah. What a douche.
Good luck.
Oh, so we kind of forget about him because really this is where it switches to Oriana. Oriana continues to take the swift current, seeing nothing and finds nothing. But he does come up on quite a few tribes of people.
Okay.
And what he notices, the tribes of people become more and more violent.
Really?
Much, much more violent as they're going through, that they can't really, they can't approach them. Well, but there was this one tribe particularly where the women were fighting. These women...
This sounds familiar.
Yeah. These women were fighting much, much harder than the men. In fact, there was hardly any men, but the women were tall, strong. He even says they were
Like Xena Warrior Princess
Yeah.
situation.
and he's like, oh man, this is the Amazon.
Wow.
This is where the Amazons live. These are the Amazonian warriors from Greek legend. So this is where it's really interesting because the Greek legend that's coming from Greece,
All the way across the world. Yeah, exactly.
is now naming. And
That's what I was going to ask. Was this named after that, or were those named after this?
this is named after those.
This is named after that. All right.
So Greece. I'm sure the Greeks didn't realize they were going to influence the whole world, but like here in the middle of the rainforest in South America, the rainforest gets the name from these warrior women.
That's awesome.
He's like, hey, these are the Amazons, and then somehow the river takes on that name. It becomes the popular name, and everyone now knows it as the Amazon.
The Amazon.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that's one of the kind of the cool things that come out of this. Like there's a lot of, he does notice that there's a lot of thriving populations. He notices a lot of pyramids and stone structures of like.
But no cities of gold.
No cities of gold. And he really can't get close to any of them anyway, because they're kind of like, screw you, we're going to kill you.
I would be apprehensive about making land on the side of the Amazon River if those people were like shaking spears and probably totally naked too, and they looked like they were going to eat me.
Yeah, you know, in the ancient world, the ancient Picts, the Scottish, would do that with the Romans. They would paint themselves and fight them naked, and it scared the Romans to heck. They were just like, man,
I bet it would. It's like the homophobicness of this situation is acting against me.
So yeah, exactly. So it's like they're just like, oh,
I'm gonna freak out.
I can't do this. So he is actually the first European to travel the whole of the Amazon.
That's impressive.
He doesn't know, of course.
At this time, he doesn't know that that's it. Yeah.
This is where actually we get our drink for the day, is because afterwards, when he gets out of the Amazon, he takes refuge on an island called Margarita. Yeah, so Margarita, right?
And that's why I made margaritas for today.
Yeah, so we used Aztec gold to make these margaritas.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Jesse needs to finish his margarita.
Here I go. So yeah, Oriana, after retreating to Margarita for a while,
Just to chill out.
I love that the island. I think this drink, a margarita for Margarita, is truly just fantastic. So like if you do want to make this at home, it's Montezuma triple sec and Aztec gold.
Montezuma the second, which means that we have two of them.
Yeah, we have two of them.
That's pretty cool.
We have two, and then we have orange and lime and some salt on the rim.
Dude, I haven't squirted anything in my drink the entire time.
It's good with the orange and
Yeah, I want some of the orange for real.
Yeah, try it. It'll make it a little sweeter. And usually, honestly, if I do have margaritas, a lot of times I'm like tequila, just a splash of triple sec, squeeze a whole lime in it, salt on the rim, and that's it.
This triple sec is like an orange sort of liqueur, right?
Yeah, it's an orange liqueur. And really, it's very easy for it to become too much. So you really only want to put a little bit in it. You never want to do too much.
Just like El Dorado is very easy to become too much, because when you're on an expedition with your best friends and your dogs and your horses, then
you might end up eating them.
You might end up eating them, including your friends, after a few months.
So after the Amazon gets its name from these Amazonian women, he hangs out on the island of
Oriana.
Yeah, Oriana, of course. What happens is when he goes back to Spain, he's like, he will tell this story to anyone who will listen.
I bet.
And he's like, guess what? There's a city of gold, and you want me to go there.
Where does he get that idea from?
Right, because like he didn't see
He barely survived by the skin of his teeth.
I know, and then here he is telling all of these really rich people, like, hey, guess what? I know where it is. If you just give me one more chance. He's like a flipping con man. He's like, if you give me one more chance, I bet you I could find it. I know exactly.
I was this close to finding El Dorado before.
He's showing them maps. He's showing them how cool he is. He's flexing his muscles.
He's been down the Amazon for the first time for a white person.
And he's like, guess what? Amazonians. I met them.
Exactly.
Wonder Woman right there.
Xena.
So he's selling himself. And guess what? There are people from Spain who are like, guess what?
We want to fund this. Yes, exactly.
We're going to do this. So in May 11th, 1545, he departs from Spain again, this time with 4 ships and 300 men. And he has enough extra supplies to make 2 more ships on those ships.
That's smart. That's planning ahead, Jesse, because these people get stranded with nowhere to go and no supplies, or they enslave so many people that they need to have somewhere to put them, and they gotta have some
making ships.
Exactly. That's about the only thing they could do. They're better at making ships than they were at finding food.
Spanish Armada, right? Mm-hmm. Better at making ships. Not good at keeping them though. Everything from the hurricane to the Amazon destroyed them. Anyway, so
exactly.
He gets this whole other group. Like they start sailing. They go to the Canary Islands. They go to a couple other islands, and already so many of his people die of sickness before they even cross the ocean. They're just traveling across like on the shoreline. So many of them are sick or die that they have to abandon one of their ships.
What happens to their ship?
They just leave it at the island.
Oh, okay.
They're just like, we can't take it with us.
Somebody's probably taking that ship if I were to bet.
Yeah, if I was a pirate,
yes.
If I was a Blackbeard, which we should totally do an episode.
Is this in the golden age of piracy? Is when this is going on?
This is like.
I think this might be right before that happens.
Yeah. If I was Blackbeard, I would take this ship.
Yeah, me too.
As he's, he loses
Oriana.
Oriana abandons that fourth ship.
Okay.
At one of these islands, and as they're sailing ocean blue, they lose another one.
Another ship.
Yeah, so this 3 ships becomes 2 ships. And that ship, they lose 77 people along with the whole of the supplies to make the other 2 ships.
Oh, they left all their ship supplies on these 2 ships. Okay, and that's dumb.
If we're thinking
you don't put all your eggs in one basket, we should have learned this before.
I know, right? So if we're thinking 77 people are on this ship that goes and disappears, we're probably looking at a total of 140, 150 left out of the 300.
That's about par for the course as far as losing people goes.
Yeah.
Actually, that's doing better than normal. We've almost got half.
Yeah. Well, no.
Far.
By December 20th, when they get there, they have 2 ships and less than 100 men.
Wait, they haven't even got there yet?
No. By the time they get there, by the time they get to South
this is
America.
Bad. This is so bad.
So they get to South America and they have less than 100 people and 2 ships.
I can't imagine like trying to pitch this idea to people and it's like, okay, we're probably going to lose half of you before we even get there.
Yeah.
I pledge my allegiance to this. I volunteer as
Great
tribute.
idea. How many lies do you have to tell to get
so
people?
many?
Like this is like
it's the reward is what it is. It's like the reward is so big. It's like winning the lottery. What makes you buy a lottery ticket is that it is it's life changing. I'm going to become the king of everything.
Yeah.
If I discover El Dorado.
Like you could bring back enough gold to be richer than the king of England.
Exactly.
Or the king of Spain, right? Well,
100%.
The trip's really over before it even starts. They can't find the beginning of the Amazon River.
That's embarrassing. How do you not find the beginning of it? Isn't it just like a giant mouth of a river in the side of a continent?
It's a whole lot of little riverways that it separates into, and they can't find the beginning of it. And so they just keep on going in circles around these like early part or these like this
or the tributaries sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And so they never find it. Less than 40 of the original 300 men live and take refuge again on Margarita.
Wow. Well, that's why we're drinking. We're going to drink to those people, the 40.
To the 40 who survived
and did not find El Dorado.
And the 260 who died.
Sorry, guys.
We toasted them.
We remember you.
If you're at home, you should have a sip for them also. So that's kind of the end of that, like that guy. That guy just
okay. So you remember our boy Casada from earlier that subjugated the Muisca people?
Yeah,
and this whole myth started from with the Golden Lake and all that stuff. So this guy married his niece, and his name was.
That's very noble, I guess.
Exactly, marry into it.
Yeah.
No, wait, no, not Casada didn't marry his niece. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I see where that could be confusing because we are very near Epstein Island in this sort of like.
Okay. I did read that wrong.
No, okay. So this guy named Antonio married Casada's niece.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And on his deathbed, Casada was like, Antonio, I almost found El Dorado. I need you to finish my legacy and find the Golden City.
Oh, gosh. Anyone who tells you anything on their deathbed, you're like, well, I guess I
gotta do it.
gotta do it.
So Antonio de Barrio is his name, and he devoted his life to picking up the mantle from De Quesada, and he was going to find El Dorado and make him proud.
Make a name. Make
Make a name for himself, exactly. So he dedicates a lot of his life to this, and he was going to go up the Orinoco River, which is the same one that Quesada from before was trying to traverse. And during the process, he ends up getting captured.
Oh shoot!
Who
Shoot!
who does he get captured by? Is Sir Walter Riley.
Oh, Sir Walter.
Sir Walter Riley. We're going to throw away by Antonio de Barrio. Sir Walter Riley is taking over now. And Sir Walter Riley is like, show me where El Dorado is. Take me
and does
to the Golden City.
Please take me to the Golden City.
Because I know you have learned about it from your forebearers.
Okay.
And
does Antonio agree to this?
Antonio has no choice because he's like, you know what I mean? He's captured. He can't do anything. He shows them all he can about the geography of the river and the Amazon basin. But ultimately, Sir Walter Riley does not find El Dorado.
Just doesn't find it.
I hang my head here for Sir Walter Riley.
Okay.
Because he is an idiot. I do not know how this man's name is etched in history in the slightest form of significance.
I don't know if that's...
He sounds like a poet. He looks like a poet, Jesse. Look at this guy. Does this guy not look like he is...
We will put this up, but... Yeah,
look, he looks like Shakespeare.
He does look like Shakespeare.
He looks like Shakespeare. If you could say that this was Shakespeare, I would believe this.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so... He is in, this is 1595 where he gets Antonio.
He's definitely a poet.
Okay, and he is like, all right, well, show me where El Dorado is. And they don't find El Dorado, of course, because they don't know where it is at all.
Because El Dorado is really hard to find.
Yes, so Sir Walter Riley has to go back to Great Britain because he's English. This is a newcomer on the scene, is England looking for El Dorado.
You got to hate when the English get involved.
Okay.
Spanish had their thing going on.
They did, and they kind of blew it. So the English and the Germans later. Yeah. The English come in, Sir Walter Riley. He goes back to England, and he's like, Queen Elizabeth, I could not find El Dorado.
Okay, if this during the time of Queen Elizabeth, Sir Walter Riley is in fact a poet. I don't remember any of his poetry, but I do remember learning about him.
I don't know if it's Queen Elizabeth. I might actually be making that up.
At the time,
it could be Queen Victoria for all I know.
Time era fits.
Okay, good. I'm glad that fits because he ended up hooking up with one of her bridesmaids.
Gotta love that.
And he wasn't supposed to hook up with one of her bridesmaids because he was warned against it, which comes back later. And she says, you have to spend 10 years in the Tower of London. I'm going to imprison you in the Tower of London. And it ends up being 10 years. So
hate that for him. Tower of London sucks.
Apparently he carved his portrait in the wall, in the stone while he was there in the Tower of London. And I think at some point he got out and there was a coup and he was blamed for the coup. So he got sent back to the Tower of London, which he may have spent 10 more years in. I'm not sure.
This sounds very English.
He is absolute. How do I phrase this in a sympathetic way? He is slow in the mind to learn of his mistakes and who he is betraying. He does the same mistakes over and over again. He ends up spending 10 years in the Tower of London, and he ends up getting out and saying, I will make amends for my sins if you let me go discover the city of El Dorado in South America.
That's how he's going to amend for his sins. He's like, I screwed up. I'm sorry I slept with the bridesmaid.
Sorry I slept with a bridesmaid that I wasn't supposed to, that you told me not to do.
You said, don't do it.
Yeah, he specifically said, don't do it.
It's like Barney from How I Met Your Mother. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can't not do it. So he does it, and he's like, you know what? You know what will make everyone happy? Let me find the city of gold. Let me find El Dorado.
Exactly. You're on the right track.
Before
Jesse.
the Spanish do. Before the
Right.
Spanish do. Yeah.
I'm going to beat the Spanish there. Okay. And they say, okay, you can go and find the city of El Dorado, but do not get into a conflict with the Spanish because tensions are kind of like okay with them right now. We don't want to escalate things.
We don't need another Spanish armada coming.
No, we don't need anything to like cause a conflict that we're not ready to to address. And Sir Walter Riley, he's like, I gotcha. I won't get into a conflict with the Spanish.
Get in trouble with the Spanish.
I'm going to bring my boy, my son, and I'm going to bring my first in command. And he's got his first in command. He's got his son. He says, we're going to go find El Dorado.
It's time. We're going to find El Dorado.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to do it English style.
So he goes back in 1617 after he served over a decade in the Tower of London being a prisoner.
What a waste of time.
What an idiot.
Well, Sir Walter Riley is not very intelligent.
No, absolutely not. He has one order. It's to not get into a conflict with the Spanish.
Don't get in trouble, bud.
Do not get in trouble. He takes his son and he takes his number one bro. Okay. So he goes back to South America.
Which, if I had a son and I was going to also take my number one bro, that would be.
He's both of them.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay. So he goes to South America from England and there's a little bit of tension with the Spanish, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, I'm going to step out of this. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. I'm just going to chill on the sidelines.
Spanish is like, why the hell are you here, bud?
Right.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, I'm out.
But his son and his second in command are going to go on his behalf.
Okay.
They're going to make things okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Did they do it?
No. His second in command starts opening fire on the Spanish and causing a big conflict.
What?
No.
Like, he just like, bang, bang,
yeah,
bang, bang.
Exactly. And so
It's
they
not like
start
they have,
fighting. They have a shoot off. His son gets killed. His son dies in this conflict. He gets shot and he's gone.
Oh no.
His second in command comes back to him and he's like, oh, Sir Walter Riley, I'm so sorry. I have failed you. And he pulls out a gun and he commits suicide.
What?
Yeah, he commits suicide because he feels so bad about that.
Oh my God.
So now Sir Walter Riley is like, oh man, well, I've lost my son.
My best friend.
I've lost my second in command. My best friend just killed himself. I guess I'm going to go look for this El Dorado city. And so he goes to the Amazon looking for El Dorado.
El Dorado is like a curse. Looking for El Dorado, you are going to hurt people.
Oh, well, just let me tell you the end of this story with Sir Walter Riley. Are you ready, Jesse?
No, but I'm here for it.
Okay.
I'm here for it. Let me. To Sir Walter Riley.
This is for Sir Walter Riley, right? Okay. So needless to say, Sir Walter Riley does not find El Dorado after his son was murdered and his best friend was killed for disobeying his orders to not get into a conflict with the Spanish. So, as an obedient Englishman that he is, Sir Walter Riley goes back to Britain and says to King James the First,
no longer is Elizabeth in power. King James.
No.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry to have failed you. I did not find the city of El Dorado, and I accidentally got into a fight with the Spanish that I wasn't supposed to. And his punishment is that they behead him.
They behead him?
They kill him.
Because they're like, hey, you created a conflict with Spanish.
I exactly told you not to do this.
I told you to not do
I'm sorry that you lost your son, but we're going to have to behead you.
Sir Walter Riley is really bad at doing the thing that he's not supposed to.
Dude.
Don't sleep with that person. I'm going to sleep with that person. Don't cause a conflict with Spanish. I'm going to cause conflict with Spanish.
Why didn't he just like evacuate and go to some like island nation by himself? He could have started his own. Exactly. He could have hung out on Margarita and been okay the whole time.
No one's checking on him.
No one's checking on him. Not Queen Elizabeth's gonna fly over there and be like, "What's up, guys? I meant to behead you a long time ago."
Yeah, she's not worried about it. She's gone.
Yeah,
King James isn't thinking about it.
Right, exactly.
He's like, here I am causing trouble in the Amazon.
He might as well take my award for the most stupid person to pursue El Dorado, because why would you possibly turn yourself in after being told not to conflict with the Spanish and doing it and then sailing all the way back to Britain? That's like 3 or 4 months where you could be like, oh, well,
Maybe I should turn the ship around and not go there.
No, I would not go there at all. There's a whole new world that I could totally start my new life in.
Go to one of the English
Yes.
settlements and just
he is an idiot. Sir Walter Raleigh is the dumbest one. All right, Jesse, do you have any after Sir Walter Raleigh?
I have none. I do have some questions, but is there anyone else that you know of?
I do. I have a ton. I like to do a search to see if there's like any movies that are good for our topics before we search for them. And besides
The Road to
old
El Dorado.
DreamWorks. Okay, so there was this movie that came out recommended, and it was called Agira, The Wrath of God. And it was directed by none other than Werner Herzog.
Ooh, that sounds very German.
Werner Herzog is like a famous director. He's in a lot of stuff. He's pretty old now. So I saw that he directed this movie called Agira, The Wrath of God. And I was like, oh yeah, we want to watch this. So we found it on Amazon Prime and it said English with English subtitles. And I was like, oh yeah, we want to watch this. It's in English. We could do this. It was in German.
Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot darn.
The whole thing was in German. I even paused the movie with my wife, Casey, and I said, look, this guy is speaking English right here. I can see it on the screen and I can see his mouth moving in English. Why is it in German? And it was in German. The whole thing was in German.
Yeah, okay, fun.
Okay, so 1977. This is the same year Star Wars came out.
Mm-hmm.
The blood in this movie was faker than Monty Python blood. It was like ketchup colored Kool-Aid. It was bad. The whole movie took place over like 2 scenes, basically on the edge of the Amazon River and on a raft on the Amazon River.
Oh, wow.
And okay, well, I'm sorry, Jesse. I'm leading you into a trap about this right now. I'm sorry. Look, I have a picture of this guy right here is supposed to lead the expedition. And this guy right here is supposed to lead a mutiny.
So that's Pedro de Ursua?
Yeah, Ursua. And this is Aguirre on this side. Lupe de Aguirre.
He's intense.
All right. So Aguirre is going to lead a mutiny against Ursua. And I thought this was going to be a dope story. And I was going to watch the movie and I was going to be like, yeah, this is good research for the podcast here.
Exactly.
This was the worst movie I'd ever seen in my entire life, dude. I'm not even kidding. This is not hyperbole at all. This movie was terrible. They tried to keep it a mystery that it was Aguirre that was the one that was in charge of the murder or whatever. And at the end, he was the only one that would survive. Like, this was like
you would have been mad if you paid for it?
Absolutely. This was like Werner Herzog's high school art project movie. I had high hopes for it, though, because like, This guy, Pedro Ursula, they were looking for El Dorado in 1559. And they had the same hardships that every other expedition has.
Probably lots of death.
They had lots of death, diseases. They were in trouble with the hostiles that were around them, trying to kill them.
I feel like El Dorado, death with the side of death.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of this,
absolutely
death. Like death that follows El Dorado.
Things got so bad on Pedro de Ursula's expedition that Aguirre, the second in command, said, all right, guys, we're going to have to kill this guy because he is leading us into
death.
Exactly. And I would be a better leader than him.
Probably right.
So
he looks like a better leader.
Yeah. I'm not going
to. With those eyebrows.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. And so they kill him. In the movie, this kill happens like off screen in this kind of a mystery as to who kills him. No, but in there was a lot of like continuity issues where you're like, oh, this guy's definitely dead. And then they show him alive in the next scene. But anyway, so Lope de Aguirre kills his first in command on this mission for El Dorado and takes over the command. They end up not finding El Dorado. But in 1561, Aguirre is now known as El Loco, and he declares himself El Loco, which means the crazy one.
Crazy one. No.
Yeah, exactly. So he declares himself the leader and he leads his remaining members down the Amazon. So, since they were commissioned by the Spanish, he then declares himself an enemy of the Spanish and says that he is the self-proclaimed Prince of Peru, and he has his own nation, or like he is the leader.
Making micronations up
Yes,
here.
he is the leader of his own land and his own tribe, and he has a daughter that is on.
This gives like super Heart of Darkness vibes, or like Apocalypse Now.
Most definitely. So he has his daughter with him on this expedition, and in order to prevent her from being captured by the Spanish and taken, he kills his own daughter.
Holy crap! This guy is like
No, the crazy one is an absolutely accurate depiction.
he is the crazy one, and
Right.
when that look is crazy.
And eventually Spain ends up capturing him and executing him.
This I can't believe how much this does really remind me of like Heart of Darkness. Or
Oh, absolutely.
I would
yes.
love to write a story about that.
Yes, Pedro de Ursera being captured by Lope de Aguirre and killed by him with a
Just
mutiny
insane.
is a great story for
story.
El Dorado.
Great story,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. They do not find El Dorado by any stretch of the imagination.
But man, what a good story! And El Dorado really does do so much. There's so much betrayal behind El Dorado.
More in the name of El Dorado are dead.
Yeah, thematically, El Dorado kills. Thematically, and like
We haven't even touched on all of them yet.
well, and can we touch all of them? El Dorado was searched for so very long. Is there anyone else that we really should like highlight?
Okay, so when you were looking at El Dorado, did you see anything about called the Seven Cities?
Briefly.
So the Seven Cities were like an expansion on the myth of El Dorado.
Isn't it weird? It went from one man to the city.
You're
To
right.
the seven cities, like
Yes.
and of course that's coming from Rome, right? Like the seven cities that were put on the hills. of
Seven
Rome.
Cities on a Hill. Yeah.
which is Rome. That is the European imagination expanding what we think is like what's important, right? Like we're like it's not just a man, it's a city. No, it's not just a city, it's seven cities. And seven, of course, being that weird.
It's not
mythic
just a
number.
city. Yeah. It's a nation. And
Yeah,
then
it's
a
a
seven
nation of gold. Which thus far we have not even found a city of gold.
No.
We haven't even found a man of gold. And here we are arguing the
Best that we have found is a little bit of gold when we drained the lake, and that was it.
And that was a lot of work. Took 300 years.
Yes, it took a long time to drain the lake. Okay, so in Mexico, let's go back to Mexico. Let's say that we've maybe searched in the wrong place for a while.
Yeah, we made a mistake.
In the
We went too far
Amazon.
south.
Let's say we made a geographical error, or we did the we used the metric system when they were using the imperial system. We missed the whole moon. I don't know. What are you talking about? This guy named Francisco, back to Francisco.
We love Francisco's. There's so many of them.
Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. Coronado.
What a last name.
Coronado. All right. So he is made the mayor of northern Mexico. And this is during the 1510s.
Okay, we're going.
Okay. So he hears about these seven cities of gold,
Okay, these seven cities.
the seven cities of this nation. And he wants to search down the seven cities. So he leads his forces of 300 soldiers northern across the border into what is now the United States.
Yeah.
He travels up through Arizona and across through New Mexico, all the way across through Texas, Oklahoma, and into Kansas, where most of his men die.
As they would.
Yeah, exactly, which is par for the course. And across the way, he has slaughtered a ton of indigenous people. As usual, you know what I mean? We're going to kill everybody that we see.
Because that's the noble thing to do, right? Like,
And he doesn't find any cities of gold.
that never does.
Nope.
Right? There's never any gold.
And he has to return empty-handed and be like, sorry, guys, I didn't find any gold. Or I probably just killed like a bunch of people. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I thought there was gold.
I thought there was going to be some gold.
Lives had to be a sacrifice because I thought maybe there could be gold, but
The possibility
the
was
possibility
there.
of gold is enough to sacrifice your lives. Goodbye.
But my last name is Coronado, and that sounds cool.
Yeah, so Coronado does it.
Nope.
So there's so many people who look for gold.
I could not fit them all into a spreadsheet.
We would be doing a book right now if we were to do this.
Jesse is right. We cannot fit everybody who could possibly look for El Dorado into a book right now.
Well, and is it important? I think El Dorado turns into somewhat of a cautionary tale, doesn't it?
I believe you.
Yeah, because it's like if your heart is for gold, because they kept on finding gold. They did find gold.
A little bit at a time. It's like a trickle, and just enough to keep you going every time.
It's like when you start gambling and people start they're like, oh, I won a little bit. I need to win more. And by the time they win like $10,000, they've already spent like $40,000. Right?
Exactly. But that $10,000 keeps you going.
Yeah. So you can't stop. You can't stop. And so here these
Conquistadors
and many others. Now the English are involved, the Germans are involved. No one's really finding.
And I hate that. Like I love it for like a narrative perspective that it like gives us good stuff to talk about. But if you were a rational speaking person, you would have put the gamut down like way before some of these people did, like Pizarro and Quesada. I would not have killed myself at 60 to try to do this anymore.
How many people died for the sake of...
Dude.
If we're trying to round this number...
I love this. Jesse says how many people died trying to find El Dorado. How many would you say? Ballpark it with a minimum and a maximum.
I'm going to say between 700,000 and...
700,000?
Yeah, I'm going to say 700,000 and 900,000.
Almost 1 million people.
Am I going high? Am I going too high? I don't know.
No. I actually love that you said that. I think that you're probably right. We should go with 1 million people.
1 million people died.
1 million people.
El Dorado.
Absolutely.
We're thinking of the unnamed indigenous. We're thinking of the Spanish adventurers. We're thinking of
the ones who accompanied them on the expeditions who didn't have a choice but to go with them.
If we start including the horses and dogs, it's too many. But we won't do that.
Well, we don't count horses and dogs. not on this podcast.
Not on this podcast.
No, exactly.
That's too many. The numbers are too high.
One of the cool things that I did read was that in the 1700s, I think it was, they found a manuscript.
In the 1700s, they found a manuscript?
They found a manuscript. It's called Manuscript 512. Did you read about this?
I did not read about
Okay, they found about this manuscript named 512 who showed that explorers were able to find this passageway that existed under this church in Santo Domingo. And Santo Domingo was the monastery that...
I don't know anything about this. I remember it being mentioned, but I don't remember anything about it.
Okay, so this manuscript showed a little bit of evidence for this passageway being discovered. And there was this guy, Percy Fawcett.
Percy Fawcett. That doesn't sound Spanish.
No, he's an Englishman.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was obsessed.
And he's a British artillery officer and explorer, so that makes sense.
He cared a lot about finding El Dorado. He led several expeditions to find El Dorado, and in May of 1925, he took off on his last expedition with his son, and he never came back.
Oh,
so he either found it and he's gone and assimilated into their culture, or he died along the way and he never found it at all.
I like to think that he's assimilated into culture, like he's just part of El Dorado.
Right. Well, what do you think about the 100+ people who tried to find him afterwards?
I don't want to think about that.
No, over 100 people died trying to find him specifically.
Like, oh gosh, El Dorado is so much death. So much
everybody is dead. Like, it is awful.
To all who died.
This is to everybody who died. We've refilled our drinks just for this one.
Yeah. For those of you who have died in search of El Dorado, we're sorry. Let your stories live on. We don't know most of your names.
Unfortunately.
But we recognize you as quite adventurous. So that's something I want to talk about for a sec. sometimes in our modern world, we're like, well, this conquistadors, they were really bad. They were really bad people. And there was like a little thing that I read online that was like, ooh, make this an activity. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's make an activity.
Is that like for my child?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, right? Like, so put yourself in the shoes of an explorer. Imagine you heard of a city that had streets of gold and
Absolutely.
and along it was intriguing. Would you, as a tourist, want to go explore it? Would you want to go see it? I mean, it sounds exciting, right?
Well, if I had the proof of it, of course I do.
Yeah. Well, what happens if you didn't?
Oh, I don't know then.
Somebody's like, hey, like I'm thinking about
I'm suspicious about this.
The modern Mars expeditions, right? Like we're thinking about like we're going to go to Mars.
Okay.
We're going to go to Mars. And like, what happens if we're like, hey, there's a civilization on the other side of Mars that has lots of gold? And they're like, who wants to go? Are you in?
I don't know, Jesse. I don't know.
Is this the new El Dorado?
How much can I survive with that? Can I grow my own fruit in my plants with my hydroponic garden sphere?
No, probably not.
No, I can't.
You probably have to be the beginning of that.
We prepare way more for space than these people who died during the Amazon, the most bountiful climate that you could possibly imagine on Earth. They were eating their horses. They were eating their belts. They gave up way too early. I do not know why we romanticize them. I hate El Dorado.
Do you think we could have done it better?
Yes, absolutely.
With my like army backpack and my Swiss, we do have the Swiss knife.
I have a fan. I have a fan that has little gooseneck arms and that it can last for like 6 hours with the USB charge. I think that we could
do this.
Dominate the Amazon with this. And I saw some videos of some people with the Discovery Channel where they were finding some cities that had only been seen on satellite imagery in the last.
I saw some of that too. Like that, the satellite imagery is kind of like the new way. Like
right, exactly. You have those armchair archaeologists who just like sit there and look at that satellite imagery.
With our thoughts, do we think that maybe El Dorado does exist?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Should we still be exploring it?
Yes.
Yes,
definitely still
explore.
Definitely should still be exploring it. Yeah, 100%.
We still need to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we should give up on it yet.
Yeah. Okay. So even after 500 years, we're like not going to give it up. So second question.
Think about how stupid these people were for 500 years.
We got this. We can.
Yeah, exactly.
We can do this.
This guy disappeared in the 1920s.
Who's that?
Percy Fawcett.
Oh, Percy Fawcett. Yeah,
that was in the last 100 years. He disappeared.
So I think 100 years later.
He's done, dude. He's done.
Like done.
Yeah.
Okay, so this legend is obviously exaggeration of both.
It's Spanish the most exaggeration.
Desire. It's a Spanish desire and
feeding into itself.
And the indigenous people being like, hey, how can we get rid of them? Tell them there's gold over there.
Uh-huh.
So
if there's gold over that mountain, I'm going to get rid of these people who are going to kill me.
This is very unlike some of the legends we've done before where there's like really physical objects. 1 through 10, Matthew, what are you grading this?
Okay.
As 1 being like absolutely just boring, not even interesting, to 10 being absolutely legendary. Is El Dorado legendary?
I'm going to give El Dorado about a 7.
A 7. Yeah, I would even almost give it a 6.
Okay.
And not because it's not really amazing that people were exploring it, but just because it seems so rationally a
anomaly.
Well, people just wanted it. It seems
it's a legend. Construct.
It seems a legend of desire.
Absolutely.
Now, mind you, so many people died for it. I wouldn't go below 6.
No,
too
absolutely
many people
not.
Offered their life for this for me to be like, no, it's nothing.
More people killed themselves for this than they did for any legend that we've talked about so far.
That is true. And that's what I think. Like, no one killed themselves for Momotaro.
No one killed themselves for Atlantis like this.
Yeah. And so there's something about El Dorado that's enticing. And even now we're like, can we find it?
It's the G word.
It's the G word. Gold. So God, glory, and gold. But really, this was about gold.
This was about humidity, hubris, and horse meat.
Which
is what people were forced to eat.
Humidity, hubris, and horse meat.
and horse meat.
Wow, I think you caught it.
What does horse meat taste like?
You know, so in recently in America we've made horse meat legal.
Have we? I didn't know that.
We have. It's been legal and they
Can you have bacon, like horse meat bacon? Like, what is this like?
Horse is not as good as bacon, but
Okay, good.
bacon's so fatty and delicious.
No, but I mean, you can have turkey bacon.
That's what horse meat tastes like. Horse meat is so very plain. You a lot of times in England that's what they eat. When you get a burger, it's mixed with horse meat.
That is awful, Jesse.
Yeah,
We should
so-
not have that.
Well, I'm sorry for it. Again, I think that hanging around 6 on this would be
6.5.
6.5.
Let's average it out to 6.5.
How's the margaritas?
7.
7. Yeah, I mean the tequila's fine. The margaritas are fine.
I'm mad about El Dorado, dude.
We're mad about El Dorado. So
I wanted to find some gold. I want somebody to find a city of gold.
I wanted to find an earlier legend in 1500.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
Anyways, guys, thank you for indulging us and being part of this quest for El Dorado.
As we sip through history
And we're thankful that none of us died.
from malaria or blood sucking
Insects
gnats,
or even from starving
piranhas, anacondas, and those.
tribes that are mad that we're here.
Yes, unfortunately, they like to kill us when they see us.
Yeah, we're nothing. Anyways, cheers, and welcome to again the Legends and Libations podcast. We appreciate you guys.
We're sipping through history.
Sipping through history, and if you do follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts,
Give us a 5-star
give us
review.
5 stars, thumbs up, share us. We really would appreciate it. Go ahead and write us on our Instagram or on our Facebook. Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.